So when you're doing a solo op, it's a whole lot different than when you're in a team. Or it can be. I'm finding out that when I'm in a team, my setups may not always work as when I'm in solo. Because everybody else has different setups. Everybody has different setups, and we all trying to work together and make this ragtag team work. All right, so my favorite ship now has become the tracker. I've got plenty of stuff to support it. And I'm going to use everything I can to build it. Okay, all Dominator is good. Propulsion is EOS by default. I like the Colossus drive. It takes you far. And it goes pretty fast, but it sips the fuel. I mean, it really sips the fuel. I'm going to try this slowed out and just try it default. And try this loadout. Make it really easy. Okay, so the target shields are crap, so we definitely have to change that, but I don't have to change anything else. So I'll change it to this. So that looks about right. I always like this setup. Strong, it's a strong setup. We'll do that, just in case. Keep the ice plunges, though. They're competition. We'll have all competition parts in it. Except the shields. Competition shields aren't very good. Because you're in a race. You don't care about people shooting at you.
What's up? Make sure my mic. Okay, good. It's not muted. Oh, why is my device not compatible? So what you up to?
Working on becoming a better squadron member. My Hawk is just too fast, and it's nice, but it doesn't do anything with its EMP right now. So I think I'm gonna stick with the tracker for now
Okay.
because it's easier to stay in formations that way and be near somebody when you're not zapping past them at 1,300 meters per second.
Well, the big thing is any dogfight, any fight, never takes place at top speed. Ever. Everyone makes that mistake right now. And this is something I kind of chuckle at in Star Citizen because it's something they were just talking about on Astropub. I was watching his discussion with, I think, Havoc and Seer the Sixth. They were talking about the problems with Star Citizen's combat right now and how everyone basically just jousts. It's two ships fly at each other at near maximum speed, take a couple of shots, turn around, do it again. And they're right. But that's because people believe they need to go the fastest. They're not landing any effective shots at those speeds. They're not really doing any real damage. And it's making fights last way longer than they need to. So, one of the things I have been striving to make better is educating people in the squadron, and I love what's his name's trying to do with the formations and information there.
Yeah,
And
exactly. Strats.
And my response to him when he kind of came back and said, "I'm just trying to keep it as simple as possible," was, well, the simplest way to do that is use current terms. Don't make up new terms for them, because people won't be able to Google those terms. You put in finger 4 and show the formation as a finger 4. I can go into Google and type in formation finger 4, and it gives me everything, including the history of that formation.
Weapons offline.
But if I type in wedge right, I will get 400 different wedges, including an algebraic or geometry equation. So it is kind of it's a challenge. So that's why I say keep it simple, use current terms. It doesn't have to be new and exciting because the game's in 2949.
Online.
I'm pretty sure in 2949 they're still going to call the formation the same because Bulka's Dicta was written 103 years ago, and we still use the same tactics. Always try to attack from above, always try to attack your opponent from behind, always try to come out of the sun when possible, always attack from a position of advantage, never give up the attack, pursue the attack until your target is dead. These are laws of aerial combat.
Yeah, and I can't wait till you put all of that in writing and I can read about it and become a better pilot, because right now I'm crap. I admit it. I'm crap.
And I mean, I'm no expert pilot by any shape or means. There are people way better than me.
Well, that's
But
always the case. I mean, there's
yeah,
always somebody better.
and the first time someone goes, "Oh, there's no one better than me," that's the person who's going to die first. That's a good mission. I'll take that one. But yeah, it's just kind of funny because I see a lot of common mistakes people make when they get into games like this. Yes, it's a space sim. Yes, it's a space fighting sim. It is not 100% true to actual space fighting. Otherwise, you'd be lucky to land any shots. Um,
Yeah, it has to bullshit its way through some of it.
right. So I try to, soften up some of my views on that because I'm a very
Weapons
hardcore
offline.
realist person. I came from DCS, where you've got to know how to operate your aircraft to be good in it. You can't just be a guy who jumps in there in a stick jock and I mash buttons and win. I used to sit in that game and watch in third person as people would crash their aircraft trying to take off. Because, again, shit's funny. Sorry, I'm looking for box missions right now to take me kind of where I want to go. Okay, that's going to Sealand from IO Tower. Oh, shit, that's going to be two big missions. Take that one. Alright.
Weapons online.
But it is funny because a lot of people don't think of the little things like that. And some things do hold true now. Like, you still do need to know how to do basic maneuvering. Ideally, you want to attack your opponent from behind. Ideally, you want to stay there. You don't always get that option. One thing is, this is space.
The whole
I
point
can
is
keep up
that,
with-
yeah, all you have to do is swing around and your back becomes the front.
Exactly. But one thing holds true. If I come out of the sun, you're still going to have a hell of a time hitting me. And being a higher altitude is not going to help here because it's space. The same laws of energy fighting do not apply. Even in atmosphere, they don't apply. One of the suggestions I will probably put on the Spectrum this week will be a post about the idea of ships like yours, the Hawk, the Avenger, Warlock, the upcoming Vanguard Sentinel, ships with an EMP device, those should be interdictors. That's what they're called, interdiction ships. The EMP device needs to have its bubble greatly expanded. There should be a second mode, which is called interdiction mode, where you kick it on. It requires a great deal of power, but while it's on, it basically creates a field that prevents you from using your quantum drive. If you're in quantum and you go through it, you drop out of quantum, just like, the advocacy hits you. Problem is, you can't keep it up forever because of the power requirements on it. It will overheat the system. So it's not something a griefer can just sit there. And,
Right. Yeah, I'm with you.
Right. So there's that. And it's something you can't activate in a, no fire zone. It's something that if you do activate and it drops people out of there, it's a crime. It has to be used correctly and sparingly. It's not something you can just sit there and grief with. There'll be a lot of downsides to using it outside of certain situations.
Overheating. Warning. Weapon system overheating. Warning. Weapon system overheating. Warning. Weapon system overheating.
So if you're a bounty hunter in a hawk and you want to keep your prey from jumping away, you activate it. But be aware, if you're doing it in a high traffic area, there's a chance you may gain crime stat because you may drop a caterpillar that's just minding his own business out of quantum. But in a ship like a Hawk, you have a small one, so you're not basically creating a 15-kilometer bubble. You're creating like a 5-kilometer bubble, which is much smaller. Which is why the Hawk is what it is.
Okay, you know that whole speech you were giving me about the Hawk?
Mm-hmm.
I was firing my main weapons that entire time, and they didn't overheat.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm working on building weaponry that doesn't overheat.
The biggest thing is your coolers.
Nope,
Upgrade your coolers.
not always. This one, oh yeah, I mean, the coolers are nice, but this is awesome.
What are you using, attritions? Because they're another one that work really well when hot.
No, I'm using the regular old CF227s. I'm just, I was just testing a basic system. And my coolers are the Zero Rush. Not even the best coolers.
They're pretty good anyway.
Yeah, they're good coolers. I'm using mainly competition parts, and then I have the Veil and the Guardian as my shields.
That's an odd combination. Yeah,
no, Force Wall and Guardian, sorry. But the Guardian has a 3.3 second delay before regen kicks in, so it kicks in regen a little sooner than the Force Wall. I like,
but,
yeah, it's cool.
I had
So
a guy trying to talk to me in game, and I was like, can't use comms,
too many comms.
and can't even chat with him because I'm holding a box and I'm not in a spacesuit.
Oh man.
I'm in my civilian clothes, and I'm like, what can I do that's low risk right now? But yeah, it is. Competition parts really help a great deal. They're expensive. There's going to be some major downsides to using competition parts. They will wear out way faster. I was doing the research on the data just currently in system that's not active yet. And competition parts are designed to quite literally break down after a couple of hours.
So you're basically replacing your ship every 5 hours.
Exactly. They're not meant to be used on a day-to-day basis. They're competition parts. They're meant to be used for a race, that's going to last an hour. They sacrifice durability for performance.
Sounds like a competition part.
Right. Military parts will be harder to get than they are now. But military parts' primary focus will be for, more performance than economy. But with that said, performance over economy, they're also going to be relatively tough. But they're going to be expensive. And not every
And
ship will
hard
be
to
able
find, and
equip
not every ship can equip
Right.
it. Yeah, definitely. And stealth parts are just not going to have as much of a signature, and they're, they have their own little thing too. But I don't know how durable they will be. I don't think very durable at all, because if they get hit, they're going down.
And that's kind of the point of stealth parts. And the stealth mechanics still need fine tuning. They're okay. They're just not great right now. But yeah, back on the fighter tactics and flying. Last night, or the other night, when we were attacking the hammerhead, as you were watching me, I was doing a lot of strafe movements, circling. I wasn't holding still at all. I wasn't even going in the same pattern.
What I was doing was just counting 12 seconds, zapping him, counting 12 seconds, zapping him. I was testing the drive, and it's hard to do that when you're moving.
It's true.
Yeah, when I'm actually fighting somebody, I'm not going to do that. But he was basically a target that I could just say, hey, a test bed.
Yeah, he was easy to get because he did not move.
Complete.
Landing complete. Have a pleasant stay.
Let me test something here real quick. So sorry if it's going to sound like I'm saying anything.
What about industrial parts? I think they're going to be very, very sturdy.
They will, but they won't have the same power as, or the same skill like usage. I'm going to try to say something in this guy in voice. Sorry, it's going to double.
Go ahead.
Alright, can you hear me in game?
It doesn't double for me because I have it off.
I don't know if it works or not. I'm trying to see if the voice works in game.
Alright, my global chat had it where I could hear you if I had it on. So I'm going to turn it on, okay?
Well, this guy's talking to me like right here, and that's what I'm trying to find out.
Okay. I think it definitely has proximity too, so I don't know.
All right. So the guy was talking to me in local, and I was trying to see if VoIP if I could talk to him. But for some reason, my VoIP won't work in game. I have yet to figure that out. I'll figure the shit out later. Could be the way my push to talk works. I'd rather it not be push to talk, and I can just go voice activate it like I do now.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
Oh, I was in hangar 3. I was like, what hangar was I in now?
Oh, cool. Now I'm in your server. They just got
Cool.
some slots open.
I am taking off from Area 18, and I'm headed to Hurston. Really not sure what I'm going to take to Hurston, but I'm going to Hurston. Taking 2 boxes.
So, as a SAR man, what ship do you want to use for SAR? The red?
Right now I really like the Cutlass Black because it's kind of everything. The red's cool, but the red's more medical based. And to be honest, people have the wrong idea of what SAR does in real life. SAR are not medevac. That's not what they do.
I'm glad you're clarifying that because, you know, it can be part of it, but it's not always. That's how I see it. You know, it's sometimes, but most of the time, you know, when you rescue somebody, they're not dying.
Exactly, and people have the wrong idea. They think SAR is we go and we rescue people who are needing medevac, and I'm going, no. That is not what SAR does. SAR goes and gets pilots who are shot down and stranded, or people who have been left behind. They do not deal with medical emergencies. That's, you know, quite literally medevac. A good example to see what SAR does, search and rescue. There was an operation by search and rescue in the late 90s where they went in to get a downed American pilot in Kosovo. He was flying an F-16. He was shot down by Serbian...
Or like Black Hawk Down? Does that make sense? Am I catching you the right drift?
Black Hawk Down's not even SAR.
Okay. Then I'm thinking something different. All right. Keep going.
No.
I just wanted to interject there. Sorry.
SAR, their job is to go in, get pilots who are downed, and get out. They are not to stay and fight. They can fight if needed, but that's not their responsibility.
Oh, so like if I eject out of my fighter during a fight, you come in, pick me up, and get me the hell out of there.
Right.
I'm catching the idea, man. I'm catching the idea.
All systems.
So, another good movie to watch where SAR is used quite a bit. Flight of the Intruder. When a pilot got shot down in Vietnam, the SAR teams actually kind of came about because of Vietnam. When a pilot got shot down in Vietnam and he was behind enemy lines, to keep him from getting captured, so they still had a trained pilot because the equipment can be replaced, they would send in search and rescue. They would always be on standby whenever there was a combat operation going on. So there was no needing to get them up there. They were just ready to go. What search and rescue do is they get the call, you know, someone called Mayday, 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 ejecting. These are my coordinates, such and such, such and such. And they bail. Poof, they're gone. Once they bailed, pretty much in real life, they would have a small radio transceiver on them that would put off a beacon letting people know this is where I'm at.
Yeah, and that's going to happen in Star Citizen all the time. Yeah, you'll have a beacon.
Exactly. So what search and rescue would do is immediately once they heard that mayday, 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 they were scrambling. They were getting the helicopter off the deck and headed to the direction where he was going. They would usually have 2 aircraft, fixed-wing aircraft, or attack helicopters as support to keep enemy ground combatants from shooting at their craft. Now, what they would do is once they found the pilot would pop smoke, letting him know where he's at. They would either lower down what was called a canopy penetrator, which was basically a sling that he could wrap around himself and they could lift him to the helicopter, or he would move his way to an area which was big enough for the helicopter to land.
Right?
And ground crew would get out of the helicopter. Usually 2 guys would get out of the back of the helicopter. These guys were called PJs, pararescue. They were trained medics, but they were also special operations. These guys were very good at killing people if needed. They would go in, get the pilot out, get him back to the helicopter if he could not walk. They would get him in the helicopter, treat him as needed so he wouldn't die of shock. The helicopter would immediately, as soon as they were on board, were off the ground. They were headed back. That was their job. It was not to get in prolonged fights. It was not to shoot at, other guys. It was to get in, get others, get out. The motto of search and rescue is so others may live.
I'm really glad you're putting that to voice for me because I thought that was, and I was trying to figure out why all these SAR people were medics.
No, a lot of SAR people have the wrong idea. That's SAR is not medics. They are trained as that. They can do that, but their job is not to be first responders. That's why it often drives me nuts when I see that.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to working with you in the future, Hodo. I've had a good feeling about you since you first joined. I've been like, yeah, this guy's all right.
I'm not going to Del Mar yet. I need to go to Hurst.
And I'll take a Cav Scout any day, man. Way to go. Good job. Guys, I worked with those guys. I know what those guys do, man. They're crazy.
Not really crazy. It's just a job I had to do.
Yeah, that's the way every military man sees their job. But from other military men, it's like, yeah, I ain't doing that.
My point of view was I go poke them with a stick. If they shoot back, I shoot back. If it was more shooting coming back my way, I leave. I need to recruit L1 first. Wow, that is nowhere near where I need to go. Alright. So yeah, it is funny because a lot of people have an idea, but they don't do enough research on it. It's like technically military operations craft. The pilot doesn't have a choice over what his loadout is. Usually the mission operations officer has complete authority over what each craft is loaded with because he knows what's going to be needed for the mission. The pilots do not have an option. They're told this is what you will have. You don't like it, don't fly.
Nice.
It's one of those harsh realities of military. In the game, I understand that's not the case. But they like to do it for a lot of reasons. One, supply, logistical reasons. I can't have a guy out there who only likes to use Sidewinders on his F-16 when the rest of his flight has to run AMRAAMs and Sidewinders. But if the engagement never comes within 10 miles, he's completely useless.
I'm finding, that's why I was telling everybody to work ragtag, because everybody's doing their own thing. We're not acting as a group.
Mm-hmm. We've got too many, and that's just it. As a military group, you've got to be a military. The individual does not exist.
Exactly. And I'm like, I'll fly whatever ship you want. I'll go in whatever turret you want. Let's have it fun as a team. And I don't see people
Exactly.
thinking that way, except for me and maybe you, because you've done it before. A couple others, like Ripper, he's got that mentality. But a lot of other people, it's like, well, I want to be in the Battlefleet crew so I can run my capital ship. Well, what the hell? Recruit for your capital ship and then run your capital ship. Don't come into the organization expecting somebody else to give you the crew for your capital ship.
Yeah. I mean, just because you blew the money for a capital ship doesn't mean you're entitled to fly it.
Landing
And
gear
that's why I always
deployed.
laugh when people are like, yeah, I bought a $700 Nautilus. That's awesome. You bought a really cool ship. So you're going to fly that all by yourself? That's going to be really boring.
You know what? I'm going to, because what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna go wherever the hell I want with it.
I mean, like, I've looked at some of the ships and I said, that would be a really cool exploration ship for me. Like, I looked at the Constellation ships and I said, I like the Connie from the standpoint of, yeah, I could explore in that ship. To me, it is the perfect long-range exploration ship.
Please proceed to
But
assigned
I
landing bay.
don't want to do it alone. That's not a ship that should be alone.
If you explore, you shouldn't do exploration alone. It should be with friends. It makes it more fun.
Well, one of the greatest points in lore is the first contact with humans and an alien race was the explorer was alone.
You fool!
Landing complete.
He was charting jump points. It was the early days of
Landing
Earth
complete.
expanding out
Have a
into the
pleasant
stars,
stay.
and we hadn't found another alien race in like 6 solar systems that we had colonized. And this explorer was out on the fringes of Earth territory. And this was, well, not even fringes, he was like one jump out of Earth, exploring a system that was well established, but mostly left alone because there was nothing worth a damn there. And he was exploring possibly new jump points when he saw a ship shadowing him on his radar. So he panicked, thinking it was claim jumpers or pirates. So he turned his ship around and fired at this ship. Luckily, he missed. Come to find out, this was a Banu merchantman who was following him because he had never seen that kind of ship before. The two landed on a nearby planet and sent out for delegations from their respective races, and they showed up and then spent the next 6 months trying to figure out how to talk to each other. When they finally came to a mutual ground of communications, the first treaty between human and alien species was signed between the Banu and humans in, I believe, 2540, 2550, somewhere around there.
That's really cool.
So yeah, it's kind of funny. I
Where's a
watched
good
some of
place to
this.
get all this lore from? I mean, everybody talks about the lore, and I'm like, where do you find all that stuff?
If you don't have time to read it, you can listen. This is what I do. I listen to it in podcasts. The YouTube channel Astropub. He has basically lectures on the lore of Star Citizen, and he breaks them down into hour-long segments for the most part. Sometimes they're half hour because there's not a lot to them. And then Star Citizen itself used to have lore segments that you can still find where they go into great detail on each of the systems and the history of those systems. And yeah, like the reason why it's called the UEE,
Hello
United
and welcome
Earth
to the
Empire,
Club. My name is Paul, the Zero One Batman Shelley.
is
Thank you for
because at
stopping
one
by.
point it was the UPE, which was the United Peoples of Earth, um, which was a democratic government ruled by what was called a triumvirate, which was 3 ruling people. You had one from the military, one from basically industry, and one from science. And these 3 people had to come to an agreement for anything to happen. Then when you had the Messer regime happen, when Ivar Messer rose to power and proclaimed himself Citizen One, or Imperator, He abolished the triumvirate and took complete control over the UPE and renamed it the UEE, United Earth Empire, or the United Empire of Earth. And he started a very xenophobic campaign. He cut off all ties with most alien races except the Banu, which were kept at arm's length. The Xi'an were treated like slaves, which led to their revolt, which led him to basically gaining more power because they used terrorist acts against humans. Some people believe that his own secret police did these terrorist acts and blamed the Xi'an to further tighten his grip on society. Yeah, and the whole time, Aegis Systems, which was the largest supplier of military ships at this time, was his basically his military arm, which is why Aegis Systems fell out of favor after the Measure regime was overthrown about 50 years ago, um, because they were seen as the weapon of the oppressors.
Wow. Go humans.
Well, the actual reason for his overthrow was a whole nother interesting topic all in itself. Um, it was all about the fact that there was a world that we were colonizing that had alien life on it. The life was basically, classified as non-sentient. Um, this was means that it was open for colonization, but unfortunately, the world's atmosphere was close to Earth's, but not breathable by humans. But it could be terraformed. So, the Measure regime at this time basically signed off on allowing a corporation run by one of the Measure family members, I think it was his brother-in-law, to terraform the planet. Later, it came out through holovids and videos from underground news sources that there was a sentient alien life form there that had its own society and had attempted to communicate with the locals there and the terraformers and let them know what they were doing was causing damage to their environment. Unfortunately, these videos were of these aliens clutching their children and suffocating because they could no longer breathe in the environment we had created so we could breathe. That species was eradicated by our greed. Those videos caused massive outcry amongst the people. People demanded change. There was outright riots. Police were taken to the streets. Several people were killed in one of the first riots. This led to open revolt on some planets, causing the military to get called in. Certain military units refused to respond to these calls because they said the people were right to revolt. This is not who we are. Some units turned against the government. Units were ordered to bomb civilian populations that were found in open revolt. Several units refused these orders, saying that is not what they signed on for. Other units did it. This led to a massive revolt and ultimately ended the Measure regime as the Measure family was thrown from power and ended the Citizen One position or Imperator that was created. And after that, it became a triumvirate again with a Citizen One position strictly as a figurehead. They had no real power. And that's where we're at now. I know I just threw a lot at you, but
It was really interesting, man. I was listening to every word, to be honest with you. I was hanging on it. I was like, okay, cool. So, we're screwed up as humans always are. Awesome.
one thing never changes: human greed.
Human greed. Yep. Until we have no use for it, we will always have I want. That's like our first words out of our mouths.
But yeah, it is funny because that is pretty much what ended the measure regime, but it did not end the UEE. We still continued that name because at this point, well, it was painted on most of our ships. And second point is, that is kind of who we are as a people. And they found that to be one of the better systems. And I agree. It works. And engines off. So yeah, it is kind of weird to hear some of these things and discuss them, and it's surprising the amount of shit that I've learned from watching Astropub and listening to this stuff. Like, I listen to it on the way to work. I have a 45-minute drive. So,
That's cool.
it's always interesting to just go over some of these things. Like, I could tell they were stealing some of these ideas from modern history. Like the idea that Aegis was kind of blamed as the weapon of the oppressor. And I could see that, because to the common man, you see a vanguard strafing your house. Every time you see a vanguard, you're going to associate that with that action. So after the measure regime was overthrown, Aegis contracts were nullified. They no longer had tight control over the government's or the military assets. It was opened up to other corporations like Anvil and RSI and even Drake.
Yeah,
Your ship has been delivered to the following landing pad.
that's cool. I'm glad you know all that stuff. I've been wondering about it lately. I've been like, you know what? It's time. When I first got into this game, I was just waiting to, experience the game before I got into the lore. Now I feel like I've experienced the game and I want to know more about its history. To me, that was just a good progression. So that was really cool, man. Thanks a lot.
You're welcome. One of the things I enjoy about the lore is I always feel lore is something you should, as a game, it gives you a place to start with. Like, you need to know kind of where the game, like where your character background is, what motivates your character. And for everyone, that's going to be different. But if you don't know where the lore is or where to even start, how do you know what's going to motivate you?
Yep. I'm having a lot of fun testing out this tracker and optimizing it. I've tried it with military parts, with competition parts, and now I'm trying it with industrial parts and seeing what the differences are.
You can see all the stat differences
Anvil
by going to
aerospace
Star
all
System
systems
DB.
online.
Yeah, but I'm actually trying it out with the ship to see how it functions with the ship, because every ship is different.
Very true.
Weapons offline.
Like when you first power up a ship, that's pretty much tells you what you need. Okay, so once I've loaded everything, I'm good. But I need to put more power to shields with the industrial and the military.
Yes. Well, the other downside of industrial is you are not going to get the actual recharge rate. So they'll recharge much slower than military.
Yeah, I'm always going to use military shields and stuff, but I'm trying to see with the industrials and with the other things.
Weapons. Take off.
Like one thing I'm doing is seeing how long I can endure
Raised.
with my weapons in each build.
Okay.
What I like is that. Alright. Okay, my EM is at my highest with the industrial, and my IR is also at the highest with the industrial. But with the military parts, when I fired, it rose up in IR a lot faster than my industrial parts. And so far, of course, the competition parts function the best. But I think overall, industrial is pretty good. But we'll see. Industrial parts have a certain IR that it starts slowing down, and it is more endurance.
Yes.
At 10,000 IR, it started cooling my ship a lot better.
Oh, look. Another advocacy interdiction. Let's see, can I go for 3 on this interdiction? Oh no, good.
And the overall performance is that I'm not overheating it.
Yes, they do have those advantages. Downside, again, they're not as fast or as, in some cases, clean. Like you don't get as much. You get a much higher IR and EM as opposed to a military or stealth. It's the same way competition. Competition, you get a really high EM and IR signature, but your performance is second to none.
Actually, I found that so far the competition had the lowest EM and IR signatures that I've had.
Oh.
But so far, the industrial has lasted the longest.
Overheating. Warning.
But it's given me the highest EM and IR.
Weapons system
Yeah.
overheating. Warning. Weapons system overheating. Warning. Weapons system overheating. Warning. Weapons system overheating. Warning. Weapons system overheating.
There it goes. They finally overheated.
I'm in quantum and petting a cat at the
Weapons
same
offline.
time, because that's what you do.
That's why we need space cats.
And if you have a chance, go to YouTube and look for Space Sea Shanty. It is one of the best songs ever. And I really can't
I
wait
think
to see
someone
the-
linked it to it.
Yeah. Well, maybe. That might also be the... What was it I had linked to it at one point? Yeah. Oh, no, that was the Star Wars burlesque show. The Empire Strikes Back.
That's horrible.
It was.
However, when I've gone into patrol mode, like, I have a patrol mode, my EM is now 5400 and IR is 6500, which is the lowest this ship has been, even with stealth parts. So I think I'm going to go with the industrials. I won't be able to evade missiles very well because it'll be high EM and high IR, but I like it. Now I'm going to test his flight. See if I like the way it flies. It makes a difference. Everything in this game makes a difference. It's so cool. I love that about the game. Oh, it's smooth.
Looks like I've been trying to lately figure out how to piracy in Star Citizen right now. It's kind of an issue. People are like, piracy, how do you pirate a ship? And I'm going, well, we have the ability to target engines. And you can technically board a ship. So, if you were to disable a ship so it can't run, and somehow convince them not to jump to quantum,
Which
You
is the
could
interdiction
technically-
sphere that you build. Yep.
well, yes, but I mean, even now in the current system, without doing that, I mean, if you could keep them from jumping to quantum, you could technically take a ship as a pirate.
And if you've taken down their engines using sucker punch or XJ1s or something, distortion weaponry, then they can't jump to quantums because their engines won't be online.
Well, no, I mean, if you just shoot the engines off.
Yeah,
That's
well,
really the only
that's
way
what.
to do it.
Yeah, at this time. But I'm saying that if you literally disable them with distortion weapons eventually, you'll be able to just take them out. And that will be a thing. Yeah.
That would be a cool function to have, but that I feel is about, as someone put it, that's at least 6 months away. I mean, they haven't even gotten to, getting certain things working right. Like, I tested out distortion weapons already, the sucker punch, and they're great for taking down shields. Don't
But
do
nothing
anything
else.
past that.
Nothing else. Nope, not right now. They had it in one of the patches that it did take other things out, and it was overpowered.
Right, you could stop a ship.
Yeah, you
And
could
I
just
think
destroy it. Just totally take it down.
I think that should be another weapon that prevents you from using your quantum drive. That's its whole purpose. If someone doesn't want to use a interdiction sphere or anything like that, they pretty much are relying on the quantum drive. The idea of using the distortion sucker punches and stuff like that keep you from jumping.
Man, I'm so glad I tested out all of these systems. It's so cool.
I just realized there's roads on Hurston.
So now I'm going to mix and match and see if I can mix and match a perfect setup. I want to mix and match a military part with an industrial part because I don't want a competition part in a combat ship if it's going to wear down really fast.
I think the only competition part I have in my ship is my quantum drive.
I like the Colossus quantum drive because it sips fuel and it goes medium fast, so it's decent fast, and it's an industrial drive.
I am using the crossfield because I ain't got all night to go somewhere. And the Cutlass has a really good quantum tank, so I'm not worried about it.
Landing bay.
Yeah, the Cutlass is awesome. It's got a really good quantum.
And again, that's another reason why I like Quantum for SAR work, because it is the every ship. You need a ship that can get in, have firepower to cover itself, has access points from all points, can carry a vehicle, and still have room to get someone in it, and jump seats. So you have one pilot, a gunner / Rio. When you're flying around day to day, you just have him in the back seat, the Rio seat. Combat operations, he jumps up in the gunner seat. You have 2 dismounts in the back, and you'll have a bike, like usually a Dragonfly, some grav-limp bike that you can easily deploy. And then when you come within a certain distance of your person you've got to pick up, wow, the shadow really shows up a long way away. But anyway, so you basically drop the bike or hot land, drop the ramp. They go out and get him, or he runs into the ship. Okay.
So I'm mixing and matching and seeing if that is in any way adjusts the ability for the EM and the IR to stay down while I have the longest amount of duration of fire that I can bring. So that capital ships and stuff, I don't have to break fire. I can just keep firing on them while I'm chasing them down and doing my maneuvering and doing my shield turn. Everything runs at optimal levels. I only have 3 guns, so I want to keep them on target.
Alright. Well, let's go do my bounty. Oh, I got a 6,000 UEC bounty here in Lordville, or in Hurston. That'll do. Last night I had a wonderful graphics glitch where it looked like my ship was shot all up, but yet it was perfect health. Alright.
And about the Cav Scout, I ain't poking an enemy with no stick, man. I'm getting... I ain't doing it.
Kind of the way it's the simplest way I've heard described what a cast out does.
Yeah, but I'm just telling you, that's my reaction to it. Don't mess up the beehive. Keep it all alone. Just nobody's here. I'm not here.
That's why my lights don't work.
Your ship has been delivered to the following landing pad.
I'm so glad I'm doing this testing. None of the stats really matter. It matters how everything works together in conjunction. So the individual stats, yeah, they help you determine that. But when you put things together, that's when it really makes effect.
Yes.
And I'm learning that the simplest thing is so complicated in this game.
There is no such thing simple in this game.
No,
It's
that's
the
why I love it.
But it's the same thing with, like, when I describe EVE Online to people. EVE Online is one of the simplest, most complex games you can ever get involved in. Oh, shit. Let me actually power my thrusters up so I can get off the ground.
Anvil Aerospace. All systems online.
Okay, power looks good. Everything looks good. Regen looks good. All right. This is a pretty good build. My EM is off the charts as my shields come online at 20,000, but that's okay. Okay, pre-flight checks are done.
Takeoff complete. Landing gear raised.
I'm overall not as fast, but my general EM and IR is about stable at 8,000.
Weapons offline.
You also have to remember, smaller ship than I am right now. Like, my IR sits around 15,000. My EM sits around 16 to 18,000.
Yeah, I like smaller ships because it enables me to move unseen. If you do it right. Yeah, it's pretty cool. So I can drop my EM to patrol mode at 5600 and 6700, so it's standard.
Right, like when I had my 300, I could get it below 3,000 and keep it there, as long as I weren't going crazy combat operations and having all weapons up and everything else.
Weapons online.
Yep, now it's going back to using the industrial and the competition. I now have best of both worlds, and I'm going to be able to consistently put down fire for a very long time.
As long as you don't overclock them, you're good.
I'm never going to overclock. It's not my way. My EM is now 11,000 instead of 15,000. So that's a lot better. My IR is 7,000, so I won't have to worry about missiles as much. I can put down flares and chaff and have them work successfully. I'm just going to keep this coming down. I'm going to post this movie up so your lore discussion will be there. All that stuff will be there. And I want people to see what it takes to actually test out a mechanic on a ship. Because I'm tired of people saying, "What's the best loadout?" There is no best loadout. You have to define the way you play.
Your best loadout is what works for you. Like for me, it's on this ship right now is gimbaled size 2s, Gatling guns, and mass drivers. That's the best loadout for me right now. Now, 3.7, that might change. 3.7, my best loadout may be, lasers and, distortion scatterguns. I don't know.
For me, it's always going to be sustained DPS. And that means repeaters. If I'm going to be in a squadron, I'm going to want sustained DPS on my targets. Because then all of my buddies, we're all going to have sustained DPS.
Holy crap. I've already got targets. Ah, that's a bright world. Why'd I have to come to this world during daylight hours?
Warning, weapon system overheating. 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 Warning.
I'm now at
weapon
10,000
system
EM
overheating.
and 10,000 IR. And I just got the overheating mark, which it should start to overheat at 10,000. But now it's the industrials are kicking in, and I'm not even heating up hardly. They just overheated. The weapons themselves overheated, not my cooling system.
Your cooling system's going to take forever to overheat on any ship.
It all depends. It's a fighter, so fighters get a little bit more wear and tear than most. But
My 300, my cooler's never overheated. It was everything else overheated.
yeah, so it literally had to overheat the weapon, so I've now maintained as much DPS as I possibly can get out of this ship. Okay, I am finished testing.
There is my target.
Landing gear deployed.
And she flies really smoothly. You can tell. Certain components make a difference.
Target destroyed.
Please proceed to assigned landing bay.
Autopilot. Landing complete.
Landing complete. Have a pleasant stay.
This target's not moving. All right.
One last test, and then I'm done for the day. Putting on the Super Hornet turret on it.
I'm going to board a NPC ship real quick. Why? Because he can't go anywhere.
Your ship has been delivered to the following landing pad.
Well, one NPC's dead.
So now that I've maximized the use of my 3 weapons, I stuck the 2 on the turret to see if I can maximize the use out of all 5.
Oh, this is awesome.
What's up?
I now have an NPC Drake Cutlass.
Oh, well done.
Aerospace. All systems online.
Granted, it has no engines.
Cool.
It can't go forward or backwards. This is awesome. So I shot the engines off of it. And oh, this thing's just got, that's awesome. I can actually see what weapons it has on it.
Weapons offline.
This damn thing's got 24 size 2 missiles.
Takeoff complete.
Oh man, this thing's flying smooth.
Let's see what the self-destruct command is.
Okay, I'm a little slower at 184 instead of the 200 that I can be. So I'll move that up to 217 and overheat my engines a little bit.
Weapons online.
With this loadout, now I'm at 9,730 EM and 7,000 IR. So my EM is going down without the radar. And that makes sense.
Landing gear raised.
I did some damage I didn't expect.
Okay, I'm at 15,000 EM when I'm firing my weapons, but my IR is staying down, so I can run this turret, this full loadout for quite a long time.
I just did a lot more damage than I expected to my ship, and committed a crime while doing it.
You dog, you.
Well, when I blew up that NPC ship, I didn't expect it to do what it did.
Bogey.
Like, I did not expect it to detonate that soon. So it ended up shooting off, like, it took out a good chunk of my ship. And of course it gave me a crime stat for damaging my own ship because I wasn't in my ship when it happened. But it does answer the question, can I take an NPC ship? Yes.
Okay, my shield buster tracker is now in play. It's got 3 XJ2s and 2 227s, and I can shoot this thing all day long.
I need to clear my crimes, so I'm going to do that real quick.
Warning. Weapon system overheating. 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 Warning. Weapon system overheating.
Now I'm going to do a full test. Okay, now my 227's overheated, but I still have my shield busters going. So I'm going to try it out. Oh yeah, I can bust a shield with this thing. The shield busters just keep going. Solid test. Getting out of here.
Landing gear deployed.
I think after I crash, well, land and get shot up by the security forces, I'm going to re-equip my ship with slightly different
Please
weapons.
proceed to assigned landing bay.
I love my tracker
feel-
now. It is awesome.
I feel like flying fixed loadout, so I might go to my size 3s.
Autopilot.
As I watch a freelancer inch around the spaceport, I'm wondering if he's going to try to land. has no cargo.